No, we don't have as much survivability as we did before. So just something we got to keep an eye out for. Okay. Pylons. Go, go, go. Amazing. Dead. I need ammo. Oh, baby. Let's fucking go, dude. That was a minute and 44-second hard mode Devourer. A minute and 44-second. Yo guys, what is up? Max on our first Descendant video, and today we are going over my updated S tier bunny build guide. Now, this is gonna be like probably a longer video. I really want to break down and explain everything that I can about building bunny, not only for mobbing, but also for bossing. As you probably saw for the intro, we're doing hard mode Devourer in sub 2 minutes. I've learned so much about bunny since my first build video. In my first build video, I hadn't unlocked hard mode, which is the end game of the first Descendant, and it really makes you have to push your character. And so I've learned a lot about building and min-maxing, and I want to share everything that I've learned with you today. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start by talking about just survivability. One of the big things that happens when you get into the end game is things just start hitting you really hard. In my first build guide, I didn't build any max HP. That was a mistake, particularly when it gets to the more challenging levels of content. Right now, when we're really speccing our stuff up, we can get to 11k HP on Bunny and almost 30k defense. I get asked a lot, what should you prioritize more? The answer is both. Like, you want a lot of defense and you want a lot of HP. If you have to pick one or the other, I think HP is a bit more important than defense, but ideally you're getting both of these up to get a lot of DR and also a lot of HP. This will allow you to sit in the faces of bosses. One of the biggest things that's actually a DPS increase in bosses is your ability to stay close to them and stay active and firing your guns. If you are constantly having to take cover and constantly having to go find health, you're going to be lowering your overall damage in the boss fights. And that's why building Tanky is actually really important for the boss fights, because it'll allow you to do more damage over the course of the fight. So yes, building health and defense on Bunny is going to be super important, especially for the end game. The next thing to talk about is our reactor. We're using a tingling singularity reactor. These are unbelievably easy to farm for a perfect god roll. I don't have a perfect god roll because I only did it for like 10 to 20 minutes of farming. But if you're in hard mode, all you want to do is hit the F key or click on difficulty level rewards. Then you're going to go click on general rounds because we're going to want to be using a thunder cage mounting. Then you're going to pick electric and we're going to click singular. That's going to give us one area to farm. This is the restricted zone. You come here and you do any of these missions and perfect reactors will drop from enemies all the time. Every single one will drop with electric skill power and singular skill power. You're just looking for a thunder cage mounting and 2 positive passives. Mine rolled with skill cost and electric skill power boost ratio. Obviously, I could get better. These are blue, but just kind of giving you an idea that this is exactly what you're looking for this precise build. Now, you can, these little 2 dots on your reactor, once you find a perfect reactor or something that you want to invest in, you can come over to this crafting bench. Click the option for reactor enhancement, and then mine is not going to show here because I've already upgraded it, but you can upgrade the base damage of your reactor using precise ion accelerators. These are pretty easy to craft if you're just breaking down reactors when you get them, and then you can make your base damage a lot higher, which helps a ton for outputting the most damage on Bunny. The next thing to talk about are external components. Now, external components are a huge part of your survivability, and you're going to want to look for double roll components. Things that drop like this, where you get max HP plus max HP, are incredible. I've got a max HP one here. I've got a defense one here. This is like 5k defense. This is like 1300 HP on these alone. We're going to be stacking up percentage increases in defense and HP in our modules, and so getting flat amounts are going to give you more bang for your buck from your modules, and so you're looking for double rolls of max HP and defense on all of these. Now, there is a set called the Supernova set that you can farm from hard mode executioner. This has the very cool and unique effect of boosting up your skill power modifiers for your electric skills, and also when you get a 4-set bonus, giving you a extra damage modifier and the ability to call down lightning from the sky that does extra damage. This is the best in slot set for Bunny. It's really great. However, in terms of farming it, I just haven't found the mods that I need where I'm getting those sets rolled with HP or defense. They are locked at their top slot for what they are. So for example, if we grab both of these, because they're guaranteed to roll with max shield on the top, you lose a ton of survivability. So I wouldn't recommend rocking these at all unless you can find them with defense or max HP as a secondary stat. I have not been lucky enough to find that, but you'll note that I go from almost 12k HP to just shy of 4k XP or HP. That is a huge survivability loss that is absolutely not worth a little bit of extra damage. So that's not why I'm not wearing this set. Do not worry about wearing that full set because you're gonna just hurt your survivability a ton unless you can find them specifically with really good HP rolls, which I just haven't found yet. As you can see, I've changed one thing and we're already almost back up to 10k HP, which is kind of wild. So yeah, that's not why I'm wearing the full golden set bonus. Now we're gonna go over our build configurations for Bunny. Bunny is a character that can specialize in mobbing, but actually, as you saw from the intro, has some really crazy possibilities with bossing. So we're going to split up the video in sections for a mobbing section, a bossing section, and an ultimate bunny section. The ultimate bunny section is the better version of bossing, but you can only put it together if you have ultimate bunny, because we're going to be using the high voltage mod, which we'll explain in a second. But high voltage mod can drastically increase your damage, but once again, it's only available to ultimate bunny. So that's why we've got a normal bossing section and an ultimate bunny section if you have ultimate bunny. So to start us up on our mobbing, one of the biggest things that we're going to be focusing on is skill effect range. I have a lot. I don't have a bazillion amount. This can go up, I think, to I believe it's 200%. Yeah, max expendable range 300%. I don't think you quite need 300%, but you definitely want to try to be aiming for at least 100%, and that is because of how farming works. Now, Bunny is a farming descendant. She is going to let you clear content and kill a lot of enemies very quickly. I recently discovered that if you are participating in kills on enemies, you're actually going to get more loot. I was doing a run with some buddies, and I was playing Essimo, who has to throw a grenade and detonate it, and he was just a lot slower, and I was playing with 3 bunnies. We were doing my Kuiper Shard farm, where you're getting like 330k Kuiper per hour. I got 10k Kuiper in like an hour of playing with, or like 30 minutes of playing with them, and they were getting 160 to 180k Kuiper. The person that was playing the highest range bunny got 180k. The person who was playing lower got 160k. And that is because if you are partaking in kills and contributing to them, more loot will drop for you. So if you're going to be playing in a group, if you're going to be playing bunny, the more AoE you have, the better you're going to be able to farm, the more loot you're going to get, and that's kind of a big priority on bunny. So we're going to be using skill expansion for 92% increased range, and also I've got thrown in maximize range here for 27% increased range with a little bit less damage. It's more than fine. The next thing that's really important on bunny is that you are able to run. Bunny has a skill called Speed of Light that while you are running, you're going to be able to send out your lightning emissions faster. These lightning emissions are based off of every 7 meters moved. So if you're moving 7 meters faster because you got Speed of Light on, your damage is going to increase, your rate of efficiency is going to increase, and so you need mana. Mana is a huge part of being able to run constantly. If you've ever played bunny, you'll know that when you're running around, it feels great. When you're really slow on the ground, it doesn't feel that great. And one of the most important mods in order to maintain running is this mod called MP Collector. This reads, when defeating an enemy, instantly recover 12% of your max MP at a 12% chance. This means that when you're killing hordes of enemies running around, not only are you going to be getting the mana that drops on the ground, but just by killing enemies, you're going to be proccing consistent MP regeneration for yourself. This will allow you to keep running. This was a big change for me when I put this on, in order, like, just in terms of like sustaining the running or the Speed of Light ability, which is really nice. Now, the rest of the stuff, we're using midair maneuvering. If you wanted to use a different submodule, you can. You could use Shock Punch. Shock Punch costs less to upgrade. Midair maneuvering is going to give you the same amount of things, but it costs like triple the amount to upgrade to rank 10. In terms of an investment, I plan on using this in the long run because I just really like the movement it provides. So that's why I'm using this. But you could use Shock Punch as you want. It's just cheaper to upgrade, and you can get that full capacity. Next up, in terms of our like damage increases, we're going to be using Electrical Specialist and Technician. Now, originally, I was using Electrical Master, and I kind of want to break down the difference of these and why we're using Electrical Specialist versus other things. So the wording's a little bit different and confusing on these. The electric skill power, anything that says power is going to increase your base damage. So, for example, if we hover over Lightning Emission, you can see that my damage is going from a 148 to a 193. If I take off Technician, that damage will change, right? It's going to go back down because we're using maximized range. It's going to go down to like 143, so a little bit less damage there. But for example, it's at 143. Now, if I take off Electrical Specialist, which is 81% power, if we take that off and open it back up, you'll see that it's still exactly 143. The reason for this is because these mods are increases to your base damage. So whatever your base value is, which is coming from your reactor, you're going to get a 80% increase on your base. The next thing is your modifier. Modifiers will give you a multiplier based off of your base damage. So every skill has a multiplier where it's like 148% power, and that's why we're using Technician. Now, once again, Technician is not the absolute best in slot skill power modifier. For example, we could use Singular. Singular Specialist does work instead of Technician if you wanted to. The only reason I'm not using Singular is because it is a little bit lazy, but the bunny, Ultimate Bunny, already comes with a forma for this M slot, and I don't have anything nearly as costly as Technician would be or Singular Focus. So because it already comes with a polarity, it just works out the best. It saves me a catalyst, and it's gonna give me like just slightly less damage, but still a ton of damage, and this is going to contribute to our multiplier. Lastly, we're rocking strong mentality so that we can run more. Our skills are going to cost less. Increased HP is vital. It's going to give us a ton more HP and survivability, as well as increased defense for more defense. And that is the mobbing build. Next up, we're going to talk about bossing on Bunny. Now, both the bossing setup and the ultimate Bunny setup are specifically for killing bosses. This is the setup you're going to want to run most of the time for getting into hard mode once you're in hard mode. However, if you get lucky, you can drop the high voltage mod, which is we're gonna talk about in a second, that can actually increase your overall bossing DPS. But we're gonna talk about the normal bossing setup without this first. And once again, you can only use high voltage if you have Ultimate Bunny. It is an Ultimate Bunny exclusive, so that's why I wanted to cover both of these. So Ultimate Bunny setup, what we're really focusing on is survivability. We've got cooldown, we've got damage, we've got HP, we've got skill cost, we've got HP amplification. We're not using HP amplification for mobbing because 90% of the time you're not taking enough damage to even need this. But for bossing, we're going to be throwing in HP amplification. This is where we're getting that like crazy HP amount. I'm going to change this back to like an HP thing. But there's where we're getting like our 11k HP from, is when on our like bossing setup. You'll note that if I swap over to my mobbing, I go down to about 8,000. That's still plenty of HP, and we're keeping our amount of defense. But for bossing, we're adding a little bit more extra defense. We got Spear and Shield in here, and we're always going to be tossing in a different antibody based on what boss we're fighting. Resistances do make a fairly significant difference, and so I'm leaving this spot open. So if you're fighting Pyromancer, you can throw in Heat antibody. If you're fighting Devourer, I'll throw in my Toxic antibody. This is a slot that you're going to be rotating based off of the boss for even more survivability. For Bunny, Bunny's not the best bosser, but you can make her really like tanky, and she's really great at doing the AoE around her. Lightning emission, which is great at killing ads while you're focusing on the boss. You're just constantly passively killing ads while playing her, which will be dropping ammo, which will dropping HP. Just feels really, really good. The one mod that I wasn't able to get for this build that I wanted to show, which is kind of nutty for bossing, and just my RNG has not been great, but there is a mod. We were using MP Collector for mobbing. There is a mod called HP Collector. It's from Hard Obstructor, but you can also get it in frontline bases. This mod allows you, whenever you kill an enemy, to get 9% of your max HP back. If you upgrade this, the cooldown goes to 2 seconds, and then anytime a boss spawns a few ads, if you're killing them, you have a way to sustain yourself, which is fantastic for bossing, because one of the number one ways you die when bossing is you just slowly get drained of your HP. So HP Collector would be fantastic to have, just not something I was able to acquire for this build video. But note that having a way to sustain HP for bosses is really nice. Lastly, we get to talk about the ultimate Bunny setup, which is using high voltage. Now, high voltage is going to change the amount of enemies that both Thrill Bomb and Lightning Emission hits. This is terrible for mobbing. I'll show you what it looks like just here real quick. So we're going to run around, and you'll see that now our Lightning Emission, instead of being an AoE, will directly hit enemies. So it'll shoot out, it'll hit 3 enemies. The reason this is so good, though, is it drastically increases the damage of our 3, and it increases its range. What this turns our 3 ability into is, instead of just kind of an ability that is not super great against bosses, that can kill some ads sometimes, into an actual significant part of your damage against bosses. Putting this on dropped my kills against bosses by about 3 minutes, which is ridiculous. So this is a massive, massive increase. I'll show it to you right now. Here is our 3. We're going up in damage, and we're going up in radius on basically everything, and you're able to keep this up on bosses all the time. You still want skill expansion, you still want the radius so that you can be hitting bosses. I found that if I wasn't using skill expansion, it was basically useless because I had to be basically underneath bosses in order to get this damage to be proccing. But lightning emission is going to give you another source of passive damage. That's why it's so good. You fully spend and spec into your gun, but your character is now no longer kind of useless. Which Bunny like is a little bit for bossing. She like her 4 can be pretty nice, and her speed is great, but she doesn't bring as much like to the table for bossing as someone like Glay, for example. However, high voltage changes that. You're able to constantly output damage on your character. We're using nimble fingers so that we only have a 2-second cooldown on lightning emission. So this is constant AoE uptime of damage. We're going to be using Technician and Electrical Specialist with this to give it increased damage. Skill Insight to get it to be critting. I would love to put Front Lines on this build to get even more damage. I've only put a single Catalyst on this bunny. So if I put one more Catalyst on, I'd be able to put Front Lines for even more skill crit damage and skill crit hit rate. This would be a significant damage increase. And then we're still rocking increased HP and increased defense so that we're able to sustain bosses. You don't want to like sacrifice too much HP and survivability for damage, because if you're dead, you can't do any damage at all. Now, in terms of farming for all of the gear that I've talked about in this video, this is your best friend. If you want to know where anything is, I'm about to walk you through, but if you want to know where anything is, you come to your map, scroll over to access info, you go to these modules, you can type in bunny, you can click on high voltage, and it'll tell you exactly where it comes from. This mod is from Hard Pyromancer, and if you want any of the mods or weapons or things that I'm using in this build, for example, the range mod that I was using, maximize range, that gives you at base 24% more range, you just click on it, click acquisition info. You can see that it's also from Hard Pyromancer, but we can also do the fortress. I farmed mine from the Hard Fortress Destroyed Base, which is this mission right here, Destroyed Base, and that applies to basically everything here that I'm using. If you're ever curious on where to farm, that menu is your best friend. Just a quick update on the guns that we're using with this build. I'm still using the Thunder Cage. This is the build for it. I'm not going to talk too long about it because I have a whole dedicated video just speaking about the Thunder Cage, but we're building it for crit. We've got a little bit of weak point, and I added my first like catalyst to it so that we could put element on it. So I'll be swapping like this element for like fire or chill or whatever, depending on what boss we're fighting. So this is my Thunder Cage build, built for just as much damage as we can pump into it. This is my Tamer build. I also just posted a video of this. I got to mess around with it a little bit more because I added mental focus to this. Mental focus allows us to constantly fire this thing, and while we're firing it, we're going to be stacking up increased damage, and that increased damage only resets once we reload. So in theory, if we have 150% mag size, we could stack this up to 150% increased damage. The only thing is we've got a lot of additive damage here, and we want to be focusing a bit more on our weak point damage. So if you don't want to use mental focus, you can slap on weak point insight, and this is the build that I posted, focusing on fire rate, weak point damage, adding an element, and this Tamer just destroys bosses. It's probably the strongest bossing thing that I've used, but just one thing to note that's really important, why I'm not using it in some of the clips, is you're cutting your damage by 60% if you're not using the Thunder Cage with this build. So if you want to be able to swap between the Thunder Cage and the Tamer, I strongly recommend finding a like nice purple reactor that you can use that is going to give you the damage so that you can swap weapons back and forth. But for this build and for our highest damage showcase, you are going to want the legendary reactor. That is going to do it for the video. I know it was a long one. Let me know if you got all the way through it. I hope you guys have been enjoying the first Descendant content. I've been really enjoying making content for this game. And yeah, guys, I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Bye.